How's it? Well, welcome back. So I had an interesting comment come in on the post that I made yesterday. Now, granted, I'm not entirely sure when I'm going to post this video right here, but the comment came in on my recent post where I was talking about my general materialistic point of view towards things and some of the positive and negative things I've noticed arise out of that general way of thinking throughout my life. And so when it comes to this comment, it's kind of more like a question that he poses. It's a pretty deep question and one that I'm certainly not equipped to completely answer myself, but I do have some thoughts on certain parts of it, so I wanted to share that for this video. But then I also wanted to share this comment in its entirety to you folks out there as well, to pose the same question to you guys and see what some of you think about it. So when it comes to this question, what it generally has to do with is lucid dreams and astral projections, which he groups both of them into the same term, essentially calling them hallucinations. But we all seem to share some commonalities, but between us, person to person, and so he's theorizing, why that is. So here's what he wrote. Why do you suppose that we all hallucinate the same thing during lucid dreams or astral projections? We feel strong vibrations, separation from the body, floating or shooting out of the body, turning back and seeing ourselves, sometimes there and sometimes not, passing through walls, doors, and windows, being able to fly, looking in the mirror and seeing a distorted version of ourselves instead of our actual reflection, light switches not working as they should, words and letters being unstable, furniture being moved, added, or removed. Why do you think we all follow the same hallucination laws? There is no reason to hallucinate that you can fly. In the waking world, you cannot fly, yet we all hallucinate that we can fly. In the waking world, you can't pass through solid objects, yet in the astral projection and lucid dreaming world, we can pass through solid objects. There is absolutely no reason all our brains should agree that we should be able to pass through solid objects. This never happens in the physical world, and there is no reason for all of our brains to come up with the exact same crazy hallucination. We never ever wake up, turn around, and see our sleeping body in bed, yet many of us experience this exact hallucination. Every time I look in the mirror, I see my actual reflection, not myself 20 years younger, as an old man, or otherwise distorted. Every time I flip the light switch, the light turns on or off, yet all our hallucinations deviate from reality in the same way. It's as if we all agreed on the rules our hallucinations should work. There is something more going on here. In the physical, waking world, we can't fly, can't pass through solid objects, never see ourselves lying in bed. Furniture is always where it should be, and light switches always work as they should. And so there is absolutely no reason that all our hallucinations should deviate from the physical world in the exact same way. No reason. The scientific model is woefully inadequate of explaining these discrepancies. Something beyond the scientific explanation of atoms and molecules is going on. Scientists try to explain the world in terms of what they know, in much the same way as the ancient Greeks explained the motion of the planets using celestial spheres. We are making the exact same mistake as the ancient Greeks, trying to explain something we don't understand using inadequate tools. It's all just a hallucination created by the brain. We need a new model that explains all the known facts. Astral projection is obviously not what it seems. You are obviously not floating around your physical bedroom, but it's also not just a hallucination created by the brain as a neuroscientist might have you believe. If we all follow the same bizarre hallucination rules, flying, passing through solid objects, etc., there's something else going on here. So, really great comment, and I'll share some of my thoughts on that stuff next. There was a lot to unpack there, right? So what are some of my general thoughts and feelings around it? When it comes to the general mainstream scientific point of view, which seems to suggest that all of these lucid dreams, regular dreams, and astral projection types of experiences are taking place purely within our own mind, and to use his terminology, essentially being hallucinations, I think for the most part, they're just going off of whatever the evidence that they do have happens to show. And up until this point, I think all the evidence that we do have seems to show that it is taking place within our own minds. Although I would imagine that for the majority of scientists out there, assuming that they're good scientists and not too ingrained in like one side or the other of this argument, I think if solid evidence or a really solid study came out that seemed to suggest otherwise, I think for a lot of them, they would be happy to switch sides on that and change their point of view or perspective towards it. Then when it comes to things like, say, looking in the mirror and you looking different, your reflection not looking the same, because it's not really a mirror, right? So it's not simply just pumping back your own reflection. Your mind's going to have to make something appear in that mirror and have it not just be like a window where you're just looking outside of a building or something like that. Because your mind has to make it, it can pump out anything. So that could just be your subconscious mind's representation of yourself, say looking younger, older, or I've looked in them and looked like a completely different person sometimes, right? So, I'm not sure why that is, but I don't see why it would have to be exactly like it is that you look. And I think it actually would be more likely that if your mind's just going to pump out an image, within this mirror, that it probably wouldn't be exactly as it is that you really look in real life. When it comes to passing through solid objects and walls and things like that, for me, that was like one of the first things that I specifically tried to practice and get better at when I started taking my lucid dreaming practice seriously and tried to go beyond just fun and pleasure seeking. Because at first, it's a pretty hard thing to do. At least it was kind of hard for me. And even to this day still yet, if I'm lucid and I'm flying and I want to try to fly through a wall, sometimes I get like stuck in the wall part way and I got to like kind of force my way through the rest of it. Because it really will feel solid at first. You have to learn to like, have your mind relax, get rid of this expectation, and actually believe that you can pass through the wall, right? Because the dream world is not this way in reality, and it's possible to pass through walls. I think by that point, it's just because it's possible, people will do it. And then on top of that, with like media, stories, books, and things like that, we might have this idea of wanting to try pass through a wall. So, why not go ahead and try it, right? Say you're in a lucid dream and you're trapped in a prison or something. You're going to want to get out. And so one of the first things you may try to do is walk through that wall, or, just to like punch a hole in the wall. That could work as well. When it comes to flying, I do think flying is an interesting one, because I'm sure like having this fantasy of flying is something that basically all humans have had at some point or another. So when you get lucid within your dream where anything is possible, I think one of the first things people are going to want to do, aside from having sex, is trying to go ahead and fly. So I do think a lot of people would give that an attempt. I do think it's interesting that we seem to know exactly what it feels like to fly. And now whether this truly is what it feels like to fly or not, I'm not too sure. But like, it does seem that when I'm flying, it does seem like it's a pretty accurate representation of what that feels like. And I think that could come from, whatever media, movies, and things we're consuming. So we can therefore take a guess at what it feels like. And then our mind just gives us the closest approximation to that expectation as it can. I do also kind of have the view, though, like, if you believe in like, that we're all kind of connected here on this planet, evolution or whatever else, right? Maybe there is some part of in our DNA that's connected to birds that really does know what it feels like to fly. So when we are flying in our dreams, it truly is the real experience and feeling of that. However, I have also had dreams where like I play probably too much video games, but like sometimes when my lucid dreams take on a more video game like feel, one of the reasons why I don't like that is I start to lose some of the physical sensations that go along with it, right? And the physical sensation of flying is like basically the best thing about flying in your dreams. So it does kind of suck where like say I'm trying to fly away from some big monster I'm fighting in the city. Then if that starts to take on more of this video game like vibe, I can lose some of the fun associated physical sensations that go along with it. Oh, what else did we have in here? I did mirrors. Oh, strong vibrations. So for me, the strong vibrations seem kind of similar to what you can find during a meditation session that you're doing, where you can get this body buzz, I used to call it, or like the skin tingling sensation. So it seems to be about like that general type of feeling, just like pumped up to 11 when you get these really strong vibrations. So, that just might be a natural byproduct of our body relaxing, and something that we naturally feel that when you're getting into this dreaming state just kind of gets bumped up, several notches. Looking back and seeing ourselves in bed, again, I think through media and things like that idea is already put in our heads. So of course, your mind can make you have that experience within the dreaming world. Plus, if you happen to have it where you're, you're kind of having this OBE type of experience where you're starting to dream or get the experience that you're in your bed and you go ahead, sit up and rise out. I think just a natural byproduct of that, even if you've never seen media saying that, you really are leaving your body. I think a natural byproduct of that is you might sit up and then your mind might still have you sleeping there in bed. So when you walk away, you look back, you see yourself there and you get that experience. Furniture being moved, displaced, or just, being removed and not even being there. If your mind's going to try and make a representation of some place in reality within the dream, maybe it just doesn't get everything right. So sometimes things can be misplaced, moved, or just completely missing. Let me look over that. What else did we have here? I think that's mostly it. So that's some of my thoughts on it. I would love to hear what some of your folks' thoughts on are on it out there as well. And with that said, we'll leave it with that. Until the next video, keep your lucid dreaming practice legit.